House. 8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability. RTD Live Talk, Tuesday, the 12th day of the month of June. Online for a little RTD Live Talk. And so tonight I figure I'll bring my mic up closer to my face, because once again in the questions and comments section from the video I did earlier, no one can hear me. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but yet prior to the last couple of weeks there was never an issue with volume, but now for some reason there is. So I have to be more cautious of the volume output for the videos. And so basically what I'll do is I'll bring the mic up, and then some people commented about, hey, just get a new mic. But this mic here is already pretty, is one of the better mics you can probably buy, apart from spending buku money. So if that being the case, I'm just going to bring the mic up closer to my face. And, as people log on, as always, chime in where you're from. And also let me know, audio-wise, can you hear me pretty clearly? Or is our volume still low? Because it's turned up on my end, and apart from trying to just probably have it up too loud, it is in the evening time, and so I don't want to disturb anybody with my loud voice. But anyway, so as we chime in tonight, interested to get your take on the video I did earlier, as well as whatever else is happening around the globe. So we have everything from Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump meeting. Not sure of the full-fledged details of that, other than some type of document was signed, but no one really seems to know what was in the document. And so I've already saw a couple alternative media people talking about how it was on some secretive type stuff to prepare for, to basically set Kim Jong-un up for World War III type of stuff. So already a lot of just, stuff out there, but of course it's just hearsay until something is revealed as far as what was actually inside the documents, or unless somebody actually knows. I'm not sure. So sounds good, says people can't hear me, all good. Yeah, so not sure what's up with that, man, because other than having a mic right here in this area, usually it's pretty good. And then when I play it back on my end from my phone, my computer, or streaming to my TV, volume sounds good. So I'm not sure. Past it, I think the volume may be in the setting on your computer still low, but better than it has been. So let me go through a few features here to see if I can adjust something on the fly, because all of the audio settings is turned up. My speaker volume is blaring, and so I want to make sure it stays high. But other than that, I'll tweak it as time goes on. But anyway, good evening. How's everybody doing? And so we got Paul from Oakland, California. Welcome, Paul. If you're a new viewer, appreciate you chiming in and checking in with us. And so inflation-wise, basically for those that have not had a chance to watch the annual Bilderberg Group had their meeting just recently, what are your thoughts on the Bilderberg Group? Philman, great question. And I saw some commentary about the Bilderberg Group meeting, and I also heard something about the person or group mentioning that it's going to be the last meeting for whatever reason, so I don't know about that. But the Bilderberg Group is in line with the whole secret society, all those private groups where only the top influencers / the wealthiest on the planet meet up to discuss. And what it appears to have brought forth each and every time they meet, roughly, is some type of new presidential candidate. And so I remember watching Alex Jones and InfoWars, and how he mentioned years ago how former President Barack Obama was an earlier attendee, and then not too long after that, him and Hillary Clinton both, regular attendees at the time. Both of them became primary presidential candidates during the time when they ran and competed against each other for presidency. So, that's the whole idea of what is it called? The idea that you're given choice, but you're not. It's already a pre-planned choice to give to the American public. So I believe from those type of groups there, that's how we end up getting the same names thrown out there. And what's different, to my knowledge, I'm not sure if President Trump was a prior attendee of the Bilderberg group, but him being a billionaire, heavy influencer type of guy, I'm sure he was well informed as to what goes on there. And so I wonder, and of course time will tell over the years, as to whether Trump was a part of the whole secret society type of situation. He was a predetermined candidate to throw into the mix at this time to be somewhat of a distraction to for a lot of the alternative media space to say that, hey, he's a disruptor of the norm. He's not a part of the establishment. He's not one of the insiders type of thing. So he could have easily been proposed and positioned to be that voice that we're currently experiencing now as a president, just to give more of the American people a reason to be divided amongst ourselves the way we are over his presidency. And so looks like we have a call, so we will jump right into some calls and see what is going on out there.
0.
Oops. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello?
No, this is Pat.
Hello, Pat. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, not too bad. I'm glad you're bringing up the Masonic influence at this point, specifically with the North Korea situation. Google Earth is a lot of fun. You can see many different things. And if you zoom in at the cities of North Korea, you'll find virtually every major park is stuffed full of nothing but Masonic symbolism. The largest modern pyramid on Earth was built in North Korea. Just across the border into China is an area that has something like 1,000 pyramids that are ancient mounds that back in the 60s during the Chinese Revolution, they planted trees to cover them up. So, and I agree with you that Trump is probably part of this Masonic baloney, but and we also know that Kim Jong-un was schooled in Switzerland for 15 years, which is the heart of the beast when it comes to these Masonic orders.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. And so that's another thing. When it comes to Google Earth, I always wonder, because I'm more of the mindset that I'm sure that there's things on the map that they don't want us to see. So how much of what we really see, as far as how much of what's really there on this planet? Because, I mean, it's amazing how people nowadays are talking about the planet's flat or is round. And so that's a major topic for a lot of people nowadays. And so I'm wondering, will Google Earth really put things on there that they don't want us to see, such as information you're sharing? And also, there's a lot of activity down at the very bottom of the Earth, down in the South Pole or down in that region there, Antarctica area. And so there's a lot of things. If you check there, you don't see no activity. I haven't seen activity. It's just all a big white blob of snow. But there's activity there from what I hear on the alternative media. So I always question what I hear and see, and just wonder. So not sure about that. But that's interesting to find out, though.
Well, here's the reason why the Pope declared that the Earth was flat way back when. It's because the Americas were populated by branches of people from every part of the world. And so he declared the world flat, which made it illegal for those supply ships to come back and forth, and trade ships from North and South and Central America for a period of time until the countries, those people were left on their own and became basically indigenous to North and South and Central America. And then by plan, he sent over to conquer the Americas, to claim them from his own. So that's where this flat Earth thing originated from. It was all a ploy to stop the trade routes that existed.
Wow, and that's something worth checking into because I'm not familiar with it. So I appreciate you sharing that information with me because now that I'm looking in the chat, just talking about flat Earth now, that seems to be the conversation now. So there's a lot of people here that say yes, it's flat, and some people say it's round. So right now we're divided on what the structure of the shape of our planet we're living on is right now. So we're not doing too good as far as being united.
That psyop is almost 1,000 years old, and it's still continuing to this day.
Yeah.
Psyops are very effective.
Yeah, I clearly see that, and so it's gonna be a problem for us to come into agreement on. I guess we can come into agreement on some of the core issues when it deals to humanity in general. But yeah, when it comes to things of this nature, obviously we're very divided because there's a lot of flat people and a lot of round people all in the same chat room. So thank you for calling and sharing your thoughts.
Those pyramids in North Korea, the pyramidic, the Masonic structures that I'm talking about, are very important. The pyramids in southern China on the North Korean border are very important because those same pyramids exist at virtually every place on Earth.
Yeah.
So proving that at one time there was a one world government. And that's what these freaks that rule the world are trying to do. They're trying to go back to what was already.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Yeah, I do agree. And as far as this just from a biblical standpoint, if you go back prior to the flood and things of that nature, I believe that the continents were all connected according to what the Bible tells us. So with that being the case there, I do believe that, the humans as well as the demonic forces mingled amongst each other because they talk about having giants and things of that nature. So I don't doubt that a lot of those structures and things of that nature come from that time frame when the continents were connected. So it was easier to walk across back and forth if everything was connected prior to the flood, which then separated us to the continent structure we have now. So, but that's also a faith and spiritual aspect to it as well. So this stuff goes very deep, as you can tell.
You bet. Well, great show, Mike.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you for calling in.
Bye.
Yeah, man. So that's a whole nother ram right there. So we went from talking about Kim Jong-un to just some spiritual aspects and some biblical things that are, I guess, of importance to a lot of people because in this chat right here, I'm hearing a lot about flat Earth. And, me personally, I'm like flat, round, I just like, I guess it is a big deal for a lot of people. And so my thing is, if it's flat, then we've been sold a bag of goods because every image we have of this planet is a round structure. And so that means that every piece of video footage you've ever seen of space or of any type of ship that has left our orbit and looks back, all that footage in that case must be video edited, documented, rewritten falsehood if the Earth is flat. So that brings in a lot of things into question. If all the video ever shown is a propaganda piece to show us a round ball with blue water and all that other stuff on it. So yeah, that goes deep. But if you guys are interested in chiming on that, feel free to chime in. Definitely about learning things. So it says, nevertheless, history is thieving, stealing, lying, and deceiving. Very true. It says, if it was round, there would be a curve. There is no detectable curvable at any distance. Yeah, I don't know, Albert. Like there's been several times where I'm out, or on a coastline somewhere overlooking the water or with some type of camera of some nature, and when you look out in the distance, I always tend to, from my camera or whatnot, always tend to see a slight little bit of a something or another. So it's either my camera or at a distance when you are looking at a wide angle, it's never, in my opinion, just a straight across. There's always a slight little bend for whatever that matter is. But once again, not going to get too deep in that because if it is propaganda, then we all been lied to. But there's a lot of issues that we know that we've been lied to about. And that's what the whole monetary situation and inflation and stuff we're primarily going to talk about this evening. So everything else kind of boils down to a faith-based belief system type of thing, I guess. It says, question, did you know there are pyramids all over the U.S.? Ancient Egyptian used to travel back and forth between the Americas. I'm sure, let me see. I know pyramids down in the Central American area, so I imagine we probably have them on this portion of the continent as well. So probably so, but I'm not familiar with them just because I probably, not subject matter I've really dived into deeply. It says inflation is tax on the people. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Show me a picture of the Earth. And so the picture of the Earth, Albert, is what I would just, if I Googled Earth or planets or whatever, the same round blue and green image that is everywhere labeled Earth is what will pop up. And so that was what everyone must then begin to question if it's not a round sphere as people and as we just all believe prior to, but a sphere. Yep. So if there's space, then there is an edge of space. It's the same damn stuff. Where's the edge of space? I don't know. Space, according to what I've heard, is ever expanding. So we won't really come to that. And that's one of the vastness. That's the vastness nature of God and the fact that we will never know a lot of things. And I've accepted that. I will accept that. So we have another caller. It's good. We got some activity early. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Richard. I'm from Sacramento.
Richard from Sacramento. Good evening, Richard. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I was kind of a little bit saddened by the fact that there's these flat earthers and conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
That have kind of hijacked your show right now. I think you have a lot of important economic things to say, and I kind of was hoping to hear more of that.
Yeah.
Like inflation.
Okay.
So
understandable.
If I could just kick off a few points.
Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
So Bureau of Labor Statistics has revised the way they measure inflation 20 times over the last 30 years.
Okay.
And the reason they do that is pensions, federal worker salaries are tied to inflation. For instance, I'm a state worker, and we get yearly raises based on inflation. So it behooves, the federal government, state governments, to claim inflation rates are lower than they are, just to ensure that they don't have to pay us more or pay people on Social Security more and more.
Yeah.
And the fact that inflation is probably closer to 7 to 9%, really tells you that the U.S. dollar is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and speaking of which, that is very interesting that you mentioned 20 or 30, give or take 20, 30 times, just because I'm aware of the initial change, and I received that information from John Williams from Shadow Stats. And so, so if you check out his website, he posts the difference between what is stated now and what the actual figures were back then. And then on the screen here, this inflation graph here, and how it just looks to me, it caught me by surprise because it looks very faulty in the fact from the mid 50s all the way up until we reached that great inflation period of the 70s, it was trending upwards. And then all of a sudden, out the blue, I guess the problem was solved. And so ever since the great inflation aspect, ever since the 80s kicked in, it's been trending, according to this graph here, downward in an environment where everything around us has been imploding. Debt is all-time high. People are broke. Credit is rampant. And I'm thinking, that doesn't really sound like that would make sense for anybody who really looked into this stuff deeper. So, that tells me a lot right there. Yeah.
Well, think about from about 1776 to about 2008, we had around about $150 billion in U.S. currency in circulation. And from 2008 to present, we've added about $3.2 trillion in U.S. currency, just hard currency if you print it out.
Yeah.
And yet we quadrupled the money supply, but inflation has only risen by 2%.
Yeah.
And what causes inflation? Printing of dollars.
Yeah.
That's what causes inflation when you print more money. What's causing inflation in places like Venezuela? Printing of their currency.
Oh my goodness!
So we know that what they're saying is a lie. And Bureau of Labor Statistics doesn't publish their methods on how they measure inflation.
Yeah, very true. So I'm trying to type in. I'm trying to type in and find a chart that has that, because I've seen charts that go way back to where they had to go to different sources for that inflation information. And it's always a increment, then it shoots up right. It shoots up right in 1970, 71, and of course with the gold standard idea. So everything we hear nowadays, if you believe it, you're a damn fool. But that's why I try to speak out against it, because I just don't believe it, and it's hard to believe when I see stuff like that. So yeah, man, that's interesting.
I'm right there. Hey, can I give you an idea for a show, a call-in show sometime?
Yes, please do. Go ahead, shoot it out.
Any chance you could do one on the Case-Shiller Index?
Case-Shiller Index.
The home prices.
Yep, index.
I was looking at it. 2008 was the peak. If you look at the Case-Shiller Index, it's created by Robert Shiller at Yale University.
Yep.
Right now, the index is much higher than it was in 08. I think we're in another housing bubble. Just an idea. It's your show. I love your show. I watch it every day.
No, definitely. I appreciate that because that is a major subject that's worth talking about because I think everybody knows, and I talk about the housing bubble a lot, but yet never really referred to the Case-Shiller Index. So definitely I'll check into that. So thank you.
All right, have a great one.
All right, you have a good one too. Thanks. Interesting, very interesting. Yeah, it's always good to have some graphs and things of that nature to really bring the point home that things aren't what they are cracked up to be. And we're told a lot of funny stuff, and it's just hard to get people to question what they're told. Like, most people really truly believe that everything you hear from your primary news source, that is the major mainstream news sources, Fox, CNN, NBC, whatever, and then every politician that gets up at a podium and speaks as if it's supposed to be truth and never really bothers to question it. Like, that's what really bothers me, because one thing I've noticed over the last couple of years of really covering politics and geopolitical events and monetary stuff is that it's not until the crisis actually hits and it's obvious and it's evident that a politician of any kind, a banker or whoever, would then get up to the podium and then address the obvious at that point. And so during the whole time things are crumbling or at the seams coming apart, that's when you hear the most everything is fine, double down. I even saw an article I was going to mention the other day about the whole concept of buy and hold. Like, Fox News, when there's a stock market dip, they say buy and hold, buy and hold. This is a great time to buy and hold. I'm thinking like, ooh, that sounds like some advice that they gave way back before the Great Recession hit and made people lose a lot of money type of advice. So I'm of the nature that a lot of the financial advice that we're getting, or you would get from your mainstream source, is outdated because monetary policy has done it to us. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. It's Fernando calling from Monrovia, California.
Hey there, buddy. How you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Excellent. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind tonight?
Love your show. I just want a quick question. With all these fear of hyperinflation, debt currency reset, what is your question in regards to maybe insurance companies, like long-term care insurance companies, auto insurance companies, that insure basically people?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to all those things when all this currency debt reset happens?
Go ahead. Yep. Very good question. So, in my opinion, I believe that a lot of those insurance companies will fall into the same type of bind that they do when, say, for example, just this past hurricane season with Houston, and even going back to New Orleans back in the day with whatever hurricane it was back in 07 or 08, where they'll come into the situation where there'll be too many claims, and then all those claims, they're going to find a way to get out of them somehow, somewhere or another, because the whole process of adjusting and the premium aspect for insurance companies aren't really set up to actually pay out on a massive scale. So I believe that there's not going to be enough funds come time to make due on all these claims. So, for example, if a whole city goes under and they're insured by 2 or 3 major insurance companies, those insurance companies, I believe, are probably not capitalized enough to cover the losses of losing an entire city, because they never really anticipate or expect that. And so I believe, I'm not sure, but if you go and you look at some of the insurance agencies during the New Orleans situation years ago, there was a lot of cases that's probably still going on now. People who never got their funds or never got reimbursed because they found a loophole in a clause saying that it was your fault or something like that they're going to do their best to not have to pay out, because that ruins their whole business model if they have to pay out to every single person that is owed. So
undercapitalized, like the FDIC, basically.
Right. So basically, at the end of the day, if there's a major currency issue, everything capital-wise they have in their accounts is going to go belly up too. So I'm not sure where the funds will come from, and if you get the funds, what will they purchase? So I think the primary issue is going to be not about the insurance companies, not about the receiving benefits. It's going to be what will the currency be worth, and it's going to be a currency issue coming up after this Great Recession or Great Depression, whatever they're going to call it. When they look back in history books, it's going to be because of the currency at the end of the day, because of the response of monetary policy. and government, in my opinion.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the great answer. Okay.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you. Hope that helped.
Okay, God bless you. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, that's a very great question, man. Like, you know, everyone is taught to make sure you're insured, make sure you're covered. And here's a great example of insurance aspect. We're the head honcho of everything monetary and economy, this United States of America. And so you think, and I look at Zimbabwe, for example. That country prior to 0809, their currency was somewhat stable, but then they ran into a crisis as a result of what happened here. It just trickled right into their economy and imploded everything there as well. But yet those people there, you know, they had house insurance, they had life insurance, they had all insurances that you're told to get to be financially responsible and to be a good steward and protector of your family. So people in Zimbabwe on a massive scale had all the coverage they needed. But at the end of the day, when the currency failed, you know, what good was that coverage that they had for say, for example, a $200,000-$300,000 life insurance policy, apart from some type of inflation rider or something of that nature. I'm not even sure of the details of that, if that's even possible. But imagine having a $300,000 life insurance policy in a country where the biggest note in the circulation is $1 trillion. So 300,000 life insurance policy, the government is printing up 50 billion, 50 million, $75 billion notes. And I don't think the insurance company, I could be wrong, and I actually read an article that the insurance company wasn't really adjusting those payout amounts according to inflation, because they're going to lose money also. So a lot of people was out of luck when it came time to collecting on a lot of stuff that they thought they were owed, in which they were owed that amount because they signed on the dotted line. But when your national currency is your biggest problem, and not in that case there, you know, who can you really get mad at? I mean, of course you get pissed at the government and the central bank because all that collided. You weren't aware of how it came to be. But once again, it's going to boil down, in my opinion, to a currency issue, to where, you know, all the conventional sound advice that was given prior to 2008-09, I believe doesn't apply these days. And that's where there's a lot of things that I question in regards to, you know, like where to take my message as far as how I should be willing to say when I'm speaking my version of truth to people, based on the fact that I just don't believe the mainstream narrative anymore. And it's hard to keep it to myself, because I feel like, you know, getting out here and telling people, and it's just my opinion, getting out here and telling people and encouraging people to rethink the dollar is one thing, because I can show you graphs and show you the purchasing powerhouse dwindling down, and you can see how a $100 bill 10 years ago, 20 years ago, don't purchase what it does right now. So you can see that it's obvious. And so it'll be easier for people to say, yeah, you know, you're right. You know, currency is devalued because of inflation and all that stuff like that. But then to say, okay, now let's talk personal finances now. Like two things I was thinking about earlier, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to chime in the chat. Two things that people are really focusing on right now. And I noticed this a lot, and it never really set well with me, but I understand the approach because it's based upon the pre-Great Recession, you know, financial information, but the idea of getting out of debt. And so social media nowadays, especially amongst the younger generation, the topic is getting out of debt, and they're referring to student loan. And so I'm thinking, like, you know, you really, at the end of the day, if you really know that your national currency is a government liability, it is an IOU, it is a derivative in a sense, you can't really get out of it because your lifestyle and your economy is built upon it. So you can't get out of debt. Now, you can get out of consumption debt, consumer debt. You can pay down and live within your means and do things at a rate of which your income can afford, yes. But to get out of debt ultimately means to get out of your national currency altogether and not to have your lifestyle dependent upon the fluctuations in its purchasing power, which is very hard to do, which, you know, that's where you get into the whole off the grid type stuff where you're self-sufficient and your economy doesn't depend upon the dollar, which, you know, at this point is very hard and it's not really possible unless you're, you know, really, really dialed into this. So that's one area, the idea of being debt free. You can't be debt free with a debt-based fiat currency is one thing I have a problem with. And then on the second note, is the idea of this whole video I did yesterday about, you know, knowing your retirement number, like to tell people to save for retirement. To me, you know, and that sounds, let me know, please tell me if I'm wrong, because I could be completely wrong. That sounds kind of radical. And of course, it's not financial advice. It's just my opinion. I'm just speaking from the heart on what I think about throughout the day. The idea of, telling people, make sure you save for retirement, because there's a big push going on. And speaking of which, just to show you how serious it is, I'll Google just so you can see how serious this is. And then show you the results. So I typed in millennials saving for retirement, and within 0.49 seconds of me typing that, 919,000 results popped up of a variety of stories from look who's they're from. Money, CNN, Fortune.com, probably a blog, Forbes.com, New York Times, CNBC, Investopedia, Barron's. And so just the top page 1 of this subject matter here of 919,000 results are all your mainstream source, top 5, top 10 news sources that are the most read and the most publicized and the most promoted, that the younger generation, millennials, Generation Z, whoever, read or see on a daily basis. And so that type of stuff right there, would definitely get you worried on the fact that, man, maybe I'm not saving enough. I look at what's happening. I want to retire comfortably. Not only do you buy into the retire aspect, but then you're like, I want to retire comfortably. So let me go ahead and contribute a little bit more and take advantage of this employer match. And so I'm thinking, like, with all this stuff going on these days, I don't really know if that's like, I don't know if that's probably the best thing to do. And then on the other side of that, what you won't really see on the front page is you see the hedge fund managers. And if you guys, earlier I posted to the community page on YouTube a great video on what JP Morgan is doing with silver, and it's by Ed Steer, and he gave a great 20-minute presentation on the importance of silver. And I'm thinking, like, that's something you ain't gonna never see on a mainstream source. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is that? Unless there's an agenda for all this. So I say all that to say, just those two areas there, I'm really like, man, really struggling with on figuring out how to really, if I'm ready or willing to really get out here and just say, hey, man, like, I wouldn't save for retirement, but then have a good follow up as to what I would encourage. And then the second one is, you can do everything you want. You're not gonna be out of debt completely, because your currency is a debt. So long as you are basing your life on that, you're still gonna have some risk at the end. Given everything that goes on behind the scene, which you probably care nothing about, because it's, something called the Federal Reserve Bank, and the fact they're meeting tomorrow to raise interest rates, and then people will probably tune out right there. So they're like, this guy's off his cuff. He's off the cuff with that. So yeah, just my thoughts. But, chime in. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. I said a lot right there. But just, that's just, do you believe do you accept the type of advice that is given now, given everything and experiencing and see developing around the world and within this country, with inflation, with the fact that wages aren't keeping up with it, with disposable income at pretty much an all-time low? Then you have consumer credit at all-time highs. You got the opportunity, like I'm thinking about just when the credit market freezes up, man, oh man, we're going to be in some hot stuff then, because I knew we were in trouble when you can go finance a phone, you can finance a car with no job, you can all that easy credit. I'm like, man, this is not real. Something's got to give. But anyway, let me get to some questions. We all have to walk away from fiat. Me too. No. Interest rates are already baked in. We are already walking away from time. Fiat time is short. Sleeping good. It says, yes, you're exactly right. 80%, 20% silver, maybe someday even value. I'm working on my body weight in silver. There you go. So, Dr. LeBay, that's good, man. So, yeah, so an approach would be, and even stating the idea of like, hey, man, based upon like, how did the 08, 09 recession, how did I treat your parents? You know what I'm saying? Like, did I treat your parents pretty well? If they're okay, then perhaps, that advice probably worked. But if your parents probably had some issues, then you might want to not do what they did, type of thing, which was to sock away all this paper. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, this is Jordan from Kalamazoo.
Jordan from Kalamazoo. How you doing, my friend? Thanks for calling in.
Doing good.
What's on your mind tonight?
I called you a few months ago. I called in.
Yep, I remember. Kalamazoo
Yeah,
call.
I was just listening to your conversation. And you were talking about just overall debt period. And I know, like, when people say get out of debt, that's a very vague term, because in this day and age, getting out of debt, you would damn near have to leave the grid, period. Because the money is tied to debt. Pretty much everything is tied to debt in today's world, except gold and silver in a physical standpoint.
Yeah, I do agree. And so but here's the thing. My question to you is, you know, depending on your approach, and if someone was to mention, hey man, I'm trying to get out of debt, you know, what wiggle room would there be to say, hey man, like, but do you know also that, you know, your national currency, you know, is a debt as well? And how do you think most people will respond to that idea? Because it can be seen as like, okay, this guy's trying to destroy my confidence. I'm trying to get out of debt. And he's trying to talk about the government. He's trying to talk about the government and its conspiracy stuff. How would you play that?
Yeah. See, and another thing, a lot of people are surface dwellers. They can't see below the surface of the water. So when it comes to having a conversation with someone like that, I would kind of tiptoe into things like that, because I had conversations with people on those type of levels where it comes to getting out of debt and stuff. And on that basis, getting out of debt would be like consumer debt, like you mentioned, like stuff like people going to buy like phones and cars, all this shit that really don't even matter. On the basis of like good debt, where if I go buy some land and I have somebody living in a rental property for me, paying off my debt. It's like two different debts. That most people just say getting out of debt. They're vague. Where there's good debt and bad debt.
Right.
So it's like for me personally, what I had to do, I had to start educating myself, because this stuff they weren't teaching in school. Everybody knows that. But it's like, even when you get out in the real world, there's no guidebook, but everyone just knows, oh, I got to go to school. I got to go deeper in debt to get a job. And it's like, that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
It's like, instead of learning about finance, because that's what the millennial generation, that's where we're going to have to start learning about financial education.
Yeah.
Because everybody's having financial problems, if they like it or not.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Like even the wealthiest of wealthiest might have money issues, because now you got all this paper. Like, I saw something recently that an Egyptian billionaire who's concerned about everything that's going on, he put half of his wealth into physical gold. So I'm sure it might not have been easy for him to unload all that paper or whatever it was held in to then acquire $500 million or whatever it is worth of gold, because from what I'm hearing, like, it's not easy to just go to your coin shop or go to a bullion and say, let me get a $500 million type worth of gold. So I'm sure he had issues. So I'm sure he was concerned on not being able to get enough gold. So there's no such thing as not having money problems, as you said, because everybody got them, especially the billionaire people. So.
He's hedging his position, because he wants to continue to stay wealthy.
Yeah.
See, holding on to $1 billion in paper, you have to be a complete fool.
Yeah.
Because it's like, with them printing it, if you're just holding paper, most people don't even know what inflation is.
Yeah.
But they just sit there and hold cash, and it's like, man, you have to be a fool if they just printing this shit out of thin air.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that is very true. But yeah, the biggest thing is, like, I like how you mentioned, like, you know, there's no guide on how to type of thing. So it got me thinking about my next little ebook. I got to come up with a how-to guide. So shoot me some ideas. We can work on something.
All right. And I was also going to mention, I was listening. I seen you were on Future Money's Trends. I listened to that too, because I've just been on, for these past few years, man, I've just been on a road just teaching myself. I've always been like a self-taught person.
Yeah.
But it's like learning about like finance, because this type of stuff, not only is it not being taught in school, and I know, pretty sure a lot of your listeners know, this wasn't even been taught by our parents.
Right.
Our parents was, you know, it was just that conformist mindset of listen to what the TV tell you, go to school, get a job, and just work, and then put your money, just give your money to somebody else and let them manage it.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, we can't accept that no more.
Right. That is very true, man. And I was thinking about that earlier on, the idea that people have been conditioned to be passive investors and trusting the system, saying, hey, let me just, it's okay to have it automatically deducted from my check to then go into an automated fund that programs and adjusts and shifts based upon an algorithm. And then what really bothers me is that they have different levels of aggressiveness. You can go passive or you can go really aggressive. And they tell if you're old, you probably want to be a little less aggressive. And if you're younger, you can afford risk. So because you got 20, 30 years. And so I'm thinking like, man, like that stuff, that's the same stuff that they did pre-Great Recession. And that's where I'm like, I got a problem with that because things have changed completely. Because we are now at zero / some places negative interest rates. So who would have ever thought that you'd be giving your money to a bank and they charging you to hold your funds, and they supposed to be paying you?
Yeah.
So people don't really think of that, man.
You know what the bank is pretty much now when it comes to like that, the passive investor, the bank is pretty much like a storage fee. You know how when you used to move out of your apartment or your house, and you put your money in, put your furniture in a storage and you pay a little monthly fee. That's what the bank is now, because the big secret is that they're not telling. The bank don't need our money.
Yeah.
They don't need it.
They don't need it, but yet they don't need it because of fractional reserve banking, but they do need, well, that's the thing. Like if they only need $1 to create 10, they still need something, but yet they can probably get that directly from the government. They can have all government employees make it mandatory to bank at, the too big to fails or commercial, and then allow them to take that extra $9 off of the top. So they don't need the population. Yeah. So I do agree with that. Yeah, man.
And I was going to ask you, when the next time you think you were going to have Jim Willie on? Because I was listening to one of his podcasts a few days ago.
Yeah.
And he was just, how Jim goes. He goes into depth. And for a lot of people that really don't pay attention, they can't even keep up with what Jim is saying.
Yeah. You talking about his most recent one on X22? Yeah. So, I listened to the whole thing, man. It was an hour and 40 minutes, an hour 20 minutes. And it got real deep for me when he got spiritual, man, and started shedding some tears, it sounded like. That's when it really hit me hard because he mentioned the name of Jesus, man. And I'm like, wow. Ain't too often you talk financial matters and you say the word in Jesus' name, or he said the power of Jesus. So that got me moved right there. So I did shoot him an email, and I haven't heard back from him, but hopefully to get him on sometime soon again. So I think he enjoyed it last time I had him on. So I'll definitely keep you posted. You'll find out when he does come, if he does come back.
All right, and how long were you going to be on tonight?
Actually, about to wind down soon as I get done with you, my friend. I'm already over my little 30-minute window that I give myself. But no, I appreciate the conversation and everything, so it's been great, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, when you do these live talks, what days are you doing the live talks?
My goal is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, which I'm going to put together some promotional stuff and get it out there and try to, get people to share it so I can blast it out a little more. But Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is the time I'm going to do for now, especially the summertime's in, and see how that goes.
All right, man. It was good talking to you, man.
Same here, my friend. Appreciate you. Good night. Have a good night.
Yep. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so that will be interesting. Very interesting. So, yeah, definitely, man. Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we're going to be live. Man, we're going to be live, getting it in tonight. And so, yeah, so people are commenting on the Golden Jackass. During that interview, I encourage you to check it out. It was quite long, but yet he just mentioned how because of how serious and how in depth of his life is into this system, that he feels like he's under some spiritual type attacks or whatnot, and has a lot of things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. So he came out and mentioned some things about having people pray for him. So it was very touching when he mentioned all those things, just because I can imagine what it would be like to be under that type of pressure that he's under, because he's so informed and connected. But this subject matter is intertwining in his DNA. It's who he is now, because he's a person that wants the truth to come out. So definitely, if we have any Christians out there, please consider praying for Mr. Jim Willie, and definitely keep him in your prayers, because he's an asset to this community as far as sharing the truth with you guys. So other than that is going to be tonight's show. It has been real as always to hang out and to chit chat a little bit. So as you guys can see, I got the new shirt on. It's called Shocked by Circumstances, and definitely I'm sure you guys can agree that the inflation aspect is a circumstance that has and will shock a lot of people. And so if you guys want to support the channel and whatnot, feel free to purchase a shirt. And then over my shoulder here on this side, you see all the things happening here. The silver thing ends in 48 hours. So I'll be giving away a 10 ounce bar to somebody. And then getting ready for the next giveaway, which is going to be exciting. Here I got the webinar if I sign up. Definitely going to get to that this summer as well. Then I got Facebook, Twitter, Steam it. You know, make sure if you're new to RTD, click at the very bottom of this video in the description and visit the RTD University page where I have all my interviews from all my guests and whatnot. And it's, you know, just a great resource of educational information to help you better understand what's happening in the Rethinking the Dollar message. So other than that, if there's nothing else happening over here, we will say good evening until tomorrow night. And as always, give me a thumbs up, share this if you found it informative. And also, since we're going to be on tomorrow night at 9:30, you know, do me a favor, invite a friend. Tell a friend that, you know, is questioning on the borderline of believing what they're told from the mainstream news to actually feeling and knowing that something ain't right. So invite them to join us for a conversation and go from there. But other than that, everybody, enjoy your night. Be good, be safe, stay prayed up. And once again, one thing I forgot that I've been meaning to end off some of my, I started early on, but just referencing, you know, a Bible verse that really is near and dear to my heart. And it's in reference to the kingdom of God, how, you know, Jesus Christ came preaching the kingdom of God because he is a king. And so, you know, one of the best and most memorable scriptures for me is Matthew 6:33, where it says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all the things you need will be added unto you. So no matter what happened around us, you know what I'm saying, stay prayed up and believe that God is in and working on your behalf like no other could ever imagine. So just my little comments for the night. So other than that, enjoy your night. Be safe. See you later.